Mustafa Barzani, the son of Sheikh Muhammad, son of Sheikh Abdul Salam Barzani. He was born on 14th of March 1903 in the village of Barzani. As a result of the Ottoman authorities' repression against the Barzani families, Mustafa Barzani was imprisoned with his mother at the age of 3. On Sheikh Ahmed Barzani's request, Mustafa's older brother, between the years of 1917 and 1919, he visited north of Kurdistan to carry out revolutionary duties. There, he met with Sheikh Abdul Qadir Nihri and Sheikh Saeed Piran. Sheikh Ahmed Barzani sent a fighting force led by Mustafa Barzani to aid the revolution in Sulaymania, headed by Sheikh Mahmoud al-Hafid in 1919. Barzani took on another difficult challenge in the years of 1920 and 1921. He took part in the process of Christian liberation, when hundreds of Christian citizens were liberated, among them Andrei Pasha. Barzani himself accompanied them all the way to the Syrian borders. During the first Barzani revolution, and on 9th of December 1931, heading a group of 80 Peshmergas, Barzani led them to an epic victory, defeating the Iraqi army in the process. They suffered 126 casualties. In return, Barzani lost 5 of his Peshmergas. This epic later became known as Barqibak. In the Battle of Doli Vaji on 3rd of March 1932, Barzani thrashed the Da'i army. They left behind 253 corpses. 12 of his men were martyred. On 22nd of June 1932, he was deported along with the rest of the Barzani families to Turkey. After the Turkish government arrested Sheikh Ahmed Barzani and later handed him over to the Iraqi authorities around spring of 1933, Mustafa Barzani led the deported families to escape, supported by the local Kurds and Turkey. He then returned to Barzan to rekindle the revolution. He carried on with his resistance until he forced the Iraqi government in August 1933 to release Sheikh Ahmed Barzani. In the middle of 1936, during a dialogue visit to Mosul, Barzani was detained and later given poisoned coffee by the mayor of Mosul. However, he managed to survive miraculously. At the end of 1936, Barzani and his brother Sheikh Ahmed were deported along with the Barzani families, this time to Baghdad, Sulaymania, Nasiriyah and Basra. They were detained. After years of exile, expulsion and detention, Barzani managed to escape on 12th of July 1943, helped by the Hiwa party and other loyal individuals in Sulaymania. Fleeing capture, heading first to Shino in Iranian Kurdistan, eventually he got himself back to Barzan on 28th of July 1943. In less than 2 months, he assembled a force more than 2,000 Peshmergas. With it, he began the 1943 to 1945 Barzan Revolution. During the revolution, Barzani led the epics of Shanadar, Khirzog, Goratu and Mazna. Iraqi government entered a dialogue with Barzani on 22nd of February 1944. Barzani demanded the national right of the Kurds. On 15th of January 1945, after numbers of meetings and discussion with the Free Kurdish officers, the Freedom Committee was formed and Barzani was elected the president. The main objective of this committee was the liberation of Kurdistan. On 25th of August 1945, the peace talk with the Iraqi government hit a dead end. It resulted in restart of fighting. Around this time, the famous Battle of Meidani Morik took place. On October 11, 1945, Barzani headed to the Iranian Kurdistan to support the Kurdistan Republic in Mahabad. Barzani was appointed head of the army in Kurdistan Republic. He led the epic fight of Qarawa in Sakhiz on 29th of April 1946. The Iranian army sustained 80 casualties and 120 soldiers were captured. Barzani led a number of battles, which he was wounded in the Battle of Nergi. On 16th of August 1946, Barzani established the Kurdistan Democratic Party. He was elected the president of the party in the first conference in Baghdad. After the fall of Mahabad Republic, Barzani returned to Iraq with 500 Peshmergas. He later decided to go on a long march to reach the Soviet Union, passing through hostile territories, where the 3-day-long battle of Sources Mountain and the Valley of Mako took place. Eventually, on 18th of June 1947, Barzani with 500 Peshmergas crossed the river of Araz and entered the Soviet territories, having negotiated the difficult terrains and 3 hostile armies of Iran, Iraq and Turkey. On 19th of January 1948, in a joint conference of exiled Kurds of Iraq and Iran, a political leadership of Kurdish movement was chosen, and Barzani was elected as a president. In an attempt to improve the living conditions of his comrade, Barzani met with the Soviet officials. On 6th of October 1958, and after the 14th of July revolution in Iraq, Barzani ended 12 years of exile when he returned to Baghdad to an unprecedented reception, where he met with Abdul Karim Qasim, the leader of the revolution. Qasim agreed to a share of power with the Kurds. On 11th of September 1961, once Qasim failed to honor his word, Barzani led the September Revolution. 2 battalions of the police and another one of the army launched an attack on Zaweta. Barzani mounted a great defense. This entered the folklore of the nation, which resulted in a mass joining of the new revolution.
وقتك عبد الكريم قاسم بيبقى رئيس الوزراء اللي بيعقلوا علميتي خويا كأنه ينتواني إدارة مملكة ديكا دستيان كده أو وأزالا كأنه غدر ظلم وتعدى بوا أبناء حكومة بو غدر ظلم وتعدى ملت مجبور لها ملاوة حتى قسم قران كرتونا إيران قسم قران كرتونا خارج أواني كلا داخل أو مقاومة الكرت بيبا سببي أوك أو مقاومة أو ثورة هستا سياستي غلطي عبد الكريم حتى استشكم حكومتي لباش أو هاتون استدستي فيها كان يعني أسباب أول بيجاوين أكشتن طبعاً أبر خمكان أجد بمعنى هذا صار تقاريري بيت أساس لو قدروا ظلمك كان لدرجة كسنتواني بخوتاني شغل لأم حياتي خوي أمين لما لطولت أولا يكسورك مجبور بن كمقاومتي أو قدر ظلمه بعقلي أو تعدانات كان كلا سلمي.
In an all-out assault by the enemy in May 1966 on Hanjir Mountain, Barzani inflicted another great defeat on the government's forces. The president at the time, Abdussalam Arif, was forced to announce a truce and enter a peace talk.
عبد الكريم وغير عبد الكريم جاني بشيوي بيشو زور زحمته وسخته وهيج ممكن نيه بو ناچار داوای حکم ذاتی اوتونومی بو خوی بکات لچارچوی سنوری عراق دا بو اوی بتوانی نخت با آسودگی و سربستی بجی ولبر اوی کمنیش یککم لملتا و او دا خوازش لسر آرزوی همو ملتی کرد بو منیش لسر او رأیم.
After another brief period of fighting, negotiation with the Iraqi government restarted and resulted in the agreement of the 11th of March 1970. This was the first time any Iraqi government had formally announced the right of the Kurdish people. The subsequent years considered as golden years, where the entire Kurdish region was ruled by themselves, leaving them free to pursue the cultural, political and artistic activities. Barzani was subject to another assassination attempt when the Ba'ath regime sent a group of mullahs under the false pretense of negotiation on 29th of September 1971. However, Barzani once again managed to survive. Iraqi government went back on their agreement in 1974 in a formal publication that had published an alterations to the previous agreement. This enraged Barzani and the Kurdish leadership. A new round of fighting broke out, lasting a year. Iraqi government used chemical weapons on Kurdish civilians. Barzani was leading the resistance against the government, which was mercilessly attacking the civilians. On 24th of April 1974, the regime air force bombarded Kaladze, a town which was under the control of Kurdish forces, and the regime targeted the marketplace and the university.
قوتك واشنبوا وقوي الرابط لمقابل الظالم كحتى دنيا كيف بلام أمر كني أو وردان مهيا ودولي بهمو جيكا جيوة أما المنوية حكومة كان خارجي موجب القوانين بين الدول يعني ملتي كرد بيجي من أمانتك كضمانك يعني بدي تنلقى في ظالم وخيانة وأمل لقى الشعب العراقيش أويا كتشون جرى ملتي كرد أجيال أكل ولا ملتي عربي شكل فيك وتفاهم كم حكومتك خير بنا.
Saddam Hussein struck a deal with Shah of Iran in Algiers to suppress the Kurdish revolution. Barzani, in an attempt to save thousands of Kurdish lives, diligently put the armed struggle on hold, crossing the border to Iran, taking thousands, saving them from annihilation. After a long struggle with illness, Barzani drew his last breath on 1st of March 1979 in Georgetown Hospital in the United States, leaving behind him a nation full of sorrow. On his request, he was buried on 5th of March 1979 in Shino on Iran-Iraq border. 6th of October 1993, Kurdistan was united to witness the repatriation of Barzani's body, where he was put to the final resting place in Barzani.